We are back for our final race of the day, your women's elite for this Pan American Championship.
Yeah, been exciting racing so far, just as we expected. We started the day with our junior men's 17, 18-year-olds, worked our way up through the men's U23, women's U23, men's elite, and finally the final race of the day. This is going to be your women's elite Pan American champion for 2018. And we can't talk about Pan American championships and women's elite racing without pointing out the obvious. Our four-time Pan American champion, women's American champion, or Pan American champion, Katie Compton, not in attendance today. She has chosen to stay over across the pond for this Pan American champion. So that is one large hole missing at the top step of this podium. And so a lot of people here to fill that one up and ready to go. In just a few short seconds, we will get underway. Walk through that list of starters right after they get started, because any second now we will get the whistle to go off. Race time.
We moved up time a couple minutes, and here they are. They are off. We're scared about getting this race into the darkness.
Daylight saving time.
Yeah, so
Pan
they
Am
started,
saving.
look at this. Ellen Noble, one thing she does other than win the last 7 races she's been in is she starts fast, and no difference today. Taking the whole shot off the front. Already with about a second lead on this. That's what we've been seeing her do for the last 4 or 5 weeks.
Yeah, Ellen Noble getting known this year, I would say, really for her hole shots, as she is able to win handily, and a lot of that has started right at the hole shot. Now, we'll just roll the clock back 24 hours and talk about the race a little bit yesterday. Finishing in third place yesterday, Magali Roche. We'll come back to that. Hold on to that. Second place, Katie Keough. And Noble won going away yesterday. I didn't count it. I'm going to say 9 to 15 second gap. It wasn't a slim margin. She won by leaps and bounds. But let's talk about third place Magali Roche. Bill, what do we know about her race yesterday?
What we know is that she crashed? She crashed
right.
Within the first minute of the race.
Yeah.
Ended up having a flat tire later in the race.
That's right.
Was still able to come back, and where did she end up finishing?
Third place yesterday.
It made up 30 seconds.
I think
up
so.
To leaders. 3 of the fastest lap times on the day.
That's the important piece right there.
Magali Roche is flying, and I will tell you this. I can tell you this now because this race has already started, so It's not like anybody who's racing is going to hear this. I talked to Ellen Noble after the race, and the first thing she asked me, how did Magali
do? That's one she's got to watch out for, right?
That is the one racer that she is concerned about, and we see it right here.
Look.
First place, Ellen Noble. I would say not even on her wheel. She's possibly inside of her wheel is Magali Roche in second place.
Yeah, Keough, McFadden, and then Faringer. Then it looked like Sammy Runnels back there in the red squid as well. This one is hotting up early because they are already starting to create separation as they go down in the beer garden beach area.
You could have told me earlier in the day that there was nobody here. When Michael Vandenham started looking like he may win that race, the fans started coming out, and we started hearing them sitting here. This race, we're not 30 seconds into this race, and it is already almost deafening coming over from that beer tent.
Oh, it's Magali, right?
Magali is the crowd favorite by far. Everybody wants her to win this race. So that's what Noble, that's what Katie Keough, that's what McFadden, everybody else that came up from the States, they are not only going against Magali, they're going against every spectator out here.
I don't disagree with you in any way. Magali, always a fan favorite. I mean, I stopped by her tent this morning just to see how things were going and learn a little bit about what her race went by yesterday. And even while I was in there, she's on the trainer, she's warming up, and she's giving out cowbells. She's giving out Magali T-shirts, things like that, meeting with the fans. She's a fan favorite for sure. She comes to the podium yesterday with cowbells and gives them out before she gets up on the podium. She is one of Canada's favorite, and it's for obvious reasons. She's an absolute superstar. And I would say, I'm gonna come back to that point you made. If you look at the winner yesterday, Ellen Noble, by no means taking anything away from her, but if you look at lap times, Magali Roche, 3 fastest lap times of the day. After crashing on lap 1 and a flat in lap 3 and losing 35 seconds, if you are Ellen Noble, no doubt you are the odds-on favorite on this one. I'm just going to say that. I'll put that out there. What is she, 7 wins in a row?
7 wins in a row.
So odds-on favorite, but you got to watch out for somebody that's turned in the 3 fastest lap times just yesterday. That's trouble.
Yeah, for certain. And we're gonna watch this the head of this race. It looks like Noble, still on the lead.
Magali
still second, Keough still third. Let's not discount Katie Keough.
No.
Let's put a pin in that for a second, and
yeah.
we'll come back and talk about Katie. What I do want to mention before we both forget is that we were able to catch up with Stephen Hyde after the race.
Great
and I
point.
just wanted to give everybody an update. Stephen Hyde is fine.
What were his exact words? Tell my mom I'm fine.
he was pretty emphatic in wanting everybody to know he was not injured. He was up.
Right.
He was, disappointed to have to drop out of the race. But thank goodness. After seeing that crash, we were really concerned about how he was going to come out of that. But perfectly fine, perfectly ready to go for the next race.
Great point. And back to the pin that we put in with Katie Keough. Here's an interesting thought. You said after Ellen's race yesterday that she won handily. Who was she asking about? Magali Roche. I'm guessing Magali Roche was taking her eye and looking at Ellen. But look at that lurking in there in the green kit. Who can benefit from that watch? That's going to be Katie Keough. Katie Keough always right there, always watching. And if Magali and Ellen start watching each other, they might forget about the little badger that's on their feet right now, and she could certainly capitalize on that.
Yeah, Katie Keough is the most humble person you will ever meet. She is not going to tell you about the accomplishments. She's not going to tell you about winning a World Cup. She's not going to tell you about finishing second in the World Cup overall. This is an accomplished bike racer who, to be honest, is looking forward to going to Europe and racing the rest of the World Cup season. She flew over to Bern to race Switzerland and then flew back. You cannot ignore a rider of that caliber in this race. This is not just a 2-woman race. We are all looking at Noble, we're looking at Rochette, but don't forget about Katie Keough.
Yeah, you can never forget about Katie Keough. Again, as you just mentioned, she actually won her first World Cup ever at Cyclocross just a few weeks ago in the mud out there. Katie Keough, I'm going to say I tried to have them counted out for me, a multi-time Wisconsin state champion over and over, moving her way up through the juniors. She was a silver Pan Am champ last year, bronze medalist at Nationals. She finished second overall in the World Cup standings as well, so a solid rider, always going to be a force at the front. And the question will be, is today her day? She has not pulled down, obviously, the Pan American Championships yet. Talk about something that's on the line today. Again, how about being the only other person that's not named Katie Compton to ever win the Pan American Championships? That's what's up for grabs today.
That is an amazing statistic.
Right?
Yeah, it just turned out Katie Compton is racing the DVV series. She has a contract to do that, is racing in Europe pretty much full time at this point. And the travel to come back to race this and then to be back for next weekend, it was too much to do. So they made the decision, a difficult decision, not to race Pan Ams this year, instead to stay in Europe. We all miss her out here. We want to see Katie Compton race as much as possible, and she definitely throws an entirely different dynamic into this race. But she's not here. So we need to talk about who is here, and who is here is Ellen Noble still on the front, Magali Roche in second place, Katie Keough right on her wheel, and Courtney Mcfadden doing everything she can at this point to reconnect with those top 3 and make it a race of 4. But if we had to pick a top 3, we're looking at them right now.
Right. Yeah, maybe could have picked this right from the start. Maybe. There's a couple of other riders out there that we may get a look at as they come around. As Faringer comes in, Sammy Runnels comes in, and look, sitting in that second group, third place, that is the one that we learned yesterday a lot about. That is Jen Jackson. Let's read her race resume a little bit. She's a cross-country skier, but putting on a bike, she won Paris to Ancaster this year. She was first in the Canada Cup for the mountain bike series, first in the provincial championship in the mountain bike as well. But throw all that out the window. What did she do before she came onto the bike? She's been the Canada Games gold medalist 3 years in a row, 7 World Cup starts, 2 junior titles to her name in cross-country skiing. She has the legs and the lungs. I just saw Faringer look like Crash coming into that pit. But the legs and the lungs are proven. I think she just got caught behind that one. But Jen Jackson, we may not see her on the top steps today, but we're going to see her in the top steps soon.
Yeah, for sure. She was a name that we were looking at. I believe in Rochester, we were all trying to figure out who she was after a great result up there, and definitely a one to watch coming through.
Almost wearing like a red flannel-looking kid.
Yep.
If you're trying to pick her out. She's rolling through 5th, 6th, 7th in a moment.
But here come your leading three, Noble. Magali, perfectly happy to let Noble sit out there, just like what we were talking about with Vandenham when he was taking the lead. She is just sitting on that wheel, but honestly, she's giving her no room for error. She is 3 inches off the back of that wheel the whole lap.
And that's, again, go back a few races. It's been a while. And even on lap number 1, I'm going to say that Ellen Noble is being tested here. Ellen Noble has been riding away from bike races and leaving people pretty far behind. Keough really the only one that's able to stay up with her consistently and give her a little bit of trouble. Nash did pretty well with it last weekend, and I say that like, it's just Nash. Well, again, most of you know the resume of Nash. Not able to stay with them, and then it looks like just going back a few bike races, Noble pretty much been able to run away, go wire to wire just like she did yesterday. When she comes through lap 1, it's got to be in her head now. She looks over her shoulder and goes, I've got 2 people on my wheel and 1 closing down really quickly. This is going to be a different bike race today. I need to collect myself a little bit better and understand exactly what I'm dealing with.
When Noble talks about When Noble talks about Magali Roche, she looks at her as a very similar type racer, and I think that's why she has trouble trying to solve her. In Rochester, she wasn't able to catch her, lost to her 2 days in a row, and it's because they're both these punchy racers. They both have like big power bursts, and Scott, this is that course.
That's right.
This is perfectly made for that type of rider. So you have Magali Roche, you have Ellen Noble, 2 similar skilled racers who are on a course that is geared towards those skills. So this is going to turn out to be a pretty crazy race as we get going on it. And I have to say, Keough, what are her skills? Pretty much all of them. So she's going to be right up there, and I think just hanging out, watching to see what happens. Saw Farringer coming through there after going down. She was about 10 seconds off the pace after that crash. We'll see if she's able to make up that ground and maybe close down that gap a little bit. But it looks like that top 3 is starting to move away from the rest of the field. Even Mcfadden looks like she's dropping back a couple more seconds.
That's very interesting what you just said, and you've got me pondering, like, how do you outsmart yourself? That's a tough conundrum that she's got going on there, right? If you find yourself that similar, is all your tricks, and so you can't use the same ones that you use on your competitors then, right?
And Ellen is a racer that really thinks about these things and thinks about strategy and thinks about tactics and what she wants to do, and on top of that is able to learn week from week. We talked about after she raced with Marianne Vos if she could have done anything different, and she was like, well, maybe I went out too hard and was leading too much. But then at the same time, she's like, she didn't want Keough back in that race. She didn't want that second group coming up to her, Katarina Nash and racers like that. So she felt like she had to push that pace against Vos. And then against Rochette, she felt like she needed to sit on more. So she's always thinking about these, always trying to figure out the angle. And I know that she was doing that last night, and it's going to be interesting to see if she has anything in her back pocket, ready to go in this race.
Yeah, so what we're looking at right now is they're going out into the Heckle Hill section. They'll go up, drop down. You'll see the blue rider in the front. That's going to be Ellen Noble of the Trek Cyclocross. Right behind her, it's going to be Magali Roche, 10-Speed Heroes. And then right behind her is going to be Keough of Cannondale, presented by cyclocrossworld.com. That is your first 3 riders on the track. Courtney Mcfadden, I believe, still rolling in 4th place, almost making it back up. And the selection was made on lap number 1 here. I think Jen Jackson, Sammy Runnels coming through there. We'll get a look at them as they make their way up the stairs in just a few short moments.
I believe Erica Zavetta in the blue kit in there as well. was 7th place when they came through. That could have shifted around a little bit. I always like it to look at the bib numbers, especially at the front end of a race, and when you see that double-digit number in there, I always like give them the thumbs up. You already have Jen Jackson starting on the 3rd row today and already working her way up into 6th place. So I don't think she'll have those big numbers on her back for long.
No, and again, we've said it a little bit, and that is she's newer to this sport, and she's gone all in. She said, you know what?
3 wide. We're talking about 3 wide. Here we have it on the steps. Look at that. It's like a NASCAR race.
That is tough. There's Mcfadden. Again, many of you know the history of Courtney Mcfadden. She is coming off 2 years of 2 back-to-back hip surgeries where she's had to take 3-4 months off the bike, had one hip done 1 year, the second one done the second year, and that's a success story that I love to highlight because Courtney Mcfadden, ever the fast racer, as she is hitting the top of the stairs. There's Jen Jackson. Sammy Runnels going up right behind her. But Jen Jackson, again, say it one more time, she is switching over from cross country, and she said, let's see how this bike thing goes. So went into the mountain bike and now cyclocross. As the riders make their way to the top of the stairs, this is where they dip out just a little bit out of the section. They'll make their way down some hill sections and then back out into the Frisbee golf area. They go out of sight for about 20-30 seconds each lap as they come back through.
One racer currently sitting in 10th place. I completely forgot about it, and then I saw the Cliff Protein. We had talked about her earlier,
That's right.
and we hadn't mentioned her in this race. Well, one of Canada's favorite daughters,
That's
Katherine Pendrell, in there. And as you mentioned before, she was in the Iceman mountain bike race just yesterday, finished 3rd in that race, drove here to Midland, Ontario to take the start for the Pan Am Championships today. Currently in 10th place, former world champion in cross-country mountain biking, Katherine Pendrell, Olympian.
Yeah, 3-time Olympian, bronze medalist at the Olympics. Yeah, Pendrell is she's one for the ages here, and it's cool to see her. Iceman was over in Traverse City, Michigan, I think that was. 8-hour loop to come down and around to race here today. But she said something like, if it's got 2 wheels, I'm going to race it. So coming over here to try and work her way up into the Pan American Championships. As the sun's starting to set up here, as of course we wound the clock back and we are on Eastern time zone. Luckily, we're on the western side of the Eastern time zone. That'll give us a little bit more light. Some of you may have wondered about the starting up the time. The answer was, as soon as all the riders are there, let's get it started, because otherwise we're doing this in the dark. Nobody wants that.
Yeah, it was funny. We got the internal memos from the race organizers for Scott and I and for everybody else in the race saying, look, we cannot be 5 minutes late. We can't be 2 minutes late, or else this race is going to end up in the dark. And they actually found a couple minutes. They were like, okay, let's give ourselves a little bit of a buffer. They started this race 2 minutes early. And Scott Herman, what are we looking at right here?
Well, just the one last thing I'll say, I love what you said before. They said, if we run late, we're going to be doing headlamp hand-ups. We've got 3 riders off the front right now. Looks like Keough's now come to the front. Noble second, Roche running 3rd there. Mcfadden still running 4th, and then that is Jen Jackson running 5th place.
I'll tell you one thing, just watching Keough, how she was able to get that jump off of the curb, her explosiveness off of this turns. We're talking about Roche, we're talking about Noble, and how they're punchy riders, and that's their strength. But the punchiest of them is on the front of this race, because she right there did it again, was able to slide around these turns and go. She's not making a wide turn. She almost just drifted her rear wheel around that turn, a superb mountain bike move, and got out to the front under the flyover. And this group of 3 is going to be heading to the finishing line, and we'll see how it shakes out when they get there.
Yeah, they come in there. I'm thinking of Ellen Noble, and I'm thinking, if I'm Ellen Noble right now, I'm doing the mathematics in my head, and that is looking around going, okay, it's been a while since I've seen this many people up front with me, and I know what Keough's capable of, and as you said, I'm trying to solve the problem of Rochette as they come through here. She's going to sit second wheel and just take a look at her competitors. We're not getting a laps to go yet, so I know there are no laps to go on the lap counter yet, as they are 17 minutes into this bike race.
20.7 kilometers per hour on that last lap. It looked to me, I looked at Noble and Rochette behind Keough, and both of them looked like they were sitting a little more upright, a little less less power on the pedals. So maybe just kind of we are already in that tactile sense. It's not a head, put your head down, go as hard as you can. I think they're really going to be a lot of looking around between these top three, and one of them is going to get the notion soon that we're looking around too much, and we're going to see some attacks start.
That's right. And one of the markers that we watch a lot of times is we watch, like, if there's someone dangling in fourth place, we keep an eye on them. That's sort of our back marker to say, are they speeding up or slowing down? And every time that fourth place person gets a little bit closer, that tells us those front three riders may be slowing down a little bit. I'm not taking away from the fourth place rider. Maybe they're riding faster, but typically what that means is they're slowing down a little bit. I don't see that as of yet. As Keough went to the front, I think she's pushed the pace a little bit, trying to wear out her competitors, even up this field a little bit. She knows Noble is strong. She knows Rochette is strong. And, you know, we've said it before, Rochette's racing in her home country. There is a different feeling when you're racing in front of your home crowd.
And more jockeying at the front. Noble deciding that she wants to be back out front. Didn't like seeing Katie Keough taking the lead. So Noble now back out front, and Katie Keough wanting no part of it. She wants to be in that sand first. The Noble sort of puts her head down and puts in a little dig. She didn't want Katie out front, but there's nothing she can do. She takes that lead going into the sand. Rochette, meanwhile, just looking at both of them, saying, I'm happy here in third for now.
Yeah, I think that sand, again, we talked about it before, getting a little bit dicey. We've seen a lot of passes going into the sand where people are trying to get into the front. I think they want that front line. I don't think they want to follow anyone into that sand because, look, as Sammy Reynolds goes through, getting a little sideways in there. There's something to be said about being able to pick the line that you want in the dicey sections. And, again, I race cross, you've raced cross. We all know that. There are some sections where you say, oh, no, I am not following your wheel through here again. You took a bad line last time. I want my line. And you may burn a match just to get into that prime position where at least you know you're comfortable and you can handle it.
Yeah, and using, which is such a great tip for anybody who's watching cyclocross and trying to follow the flow of the race. Scott, what you were saying about watching that fourth place rider and how the front racers were doing. I think once Noble went to the front and put in that push and didn't want Katie leading, then once Katie decided, nope, I'm going to be in front and come back out, that really pushed up the pace another notch. Now it's a 9-second gap between those leading three back to Mcfadden, where when they crossed the finish line, it was a 6-second gap.
Well, I got to tell you what. All right, I'm going to quiz you here live on air. The last two laps, there are 3 riders on the front. Which rider has not been on the front of this bike race in the last 2 laps?
That's going to be Magali Roche.
That's right. You passed. She has been sitting on the back or in the middle each lap. And on a windy course like this one today, I like that for Magali Roche. That is a cagey ride. Look at her. There she is, rolling through third place.
That is not how she races.
That's right.
This is completely different than the Rochette we know. This is not what we saw at Rochester.
This
is not what we saw at Reno, especially.
Right.
Magali Rochette hears one thing in a cross race, and that is the whistle, and then she puts her head down and she goes as fast as she possibly can.
So is it that she's not feeling good, or do you think that she is saying, okay, I need to race a tactfully strong race, I should say, or do you think she's not feeling good?
I think this along with her European campaign that's coming up, until that happens, this is her A race for the season.
Right. Yep.
And I think that she is being smart
right.
and calm and racing within herself and picking her spots. And those spots have not happened yet.
Yeah, these 2 riders that she's got with her, Keough and Noble, both racing the C1, C2 just last weekend. Magali Rochette, she said, nope, I'm going to take a little bit of time off. I'm going to do some good training, get in the good watts, and I'll see you at Pan Am's. No doubt, I think you're 100% correct. This is one of her, again, they write down their target races at the beginning of the year in gold, and I think she may have put a gold mark right on this one.
We looked at that last race, and by luck or knowledge, we got it right. We knew that Vandenham was going to have a hard time if he came to the line with Curtis White. And it turned out that was the case, and Curtis White was able to outsprint him. Ellen Noble is a strong sprinter. She does not like to call herself a road racer,
right?
But when she gets out there,
she's good at it.
She basically swept New England Crit Week last year while she was in the middle of a World Cup mountain bike season. So she knows how to race on the road, and she also has a strong sprint. Rochette, also a strong sprinter. So I don't know if that works into the calculus that I don't want to take Ellen Noble to the line. I think she'd be more than happy with that. And really where they are now, especially looking at it from Rochette's standpoint, is she doesn't have anything to lose. She's with the people that she needs to be with. She feels like she is as good, if not better, as far as where we are in the season as those two. So she doesn't have to be in front. She doesn't have to attack unless she feels like it's part of her strategy that she's come up with. This is where I want to go, and then she will. But for now, I think she's perfectly happy where she is, and if this is how the rest of the race goes, I think she'll be happy with that as well.
Our friend Mark Savory weighing in on Twitter, he said she's not only sitting in, she's fully marking Noble. I think that's an astute observation, and I think that's exactly what's going on. If she knows who the one to beat is, and I'll say it again, who does that benefit? Katie Keough, because she's not the one. I don't think she's the one being watched right now. I think that
we've
Rochette
seen it time and
Noble
time again, and it's always for exciting racing when you know the two racers are marking each other, and they're marking each other, and it's that other person who's like, well, no one's paying attention to me, and then they just go.
Keough may attack, and the two look at each other and go, well, I expect you to go after her, and that might just be the way that it pans out, maybe not.
And Katie Keough is the master of that. I don't know if anybody... All of a sudden, she was winning Jingle Cross.
Right.
Like, where did this come from?
That's right.
I know you were announcing it live, and you were like, it's sort of a double take, and there's Katie Keough in the front. So she's amazing at being able to read a race, pick her spots, and go to the front. And, yeah, I think you're right. I think we have these two riders that are keen on watching each other, but as soon as we say it, Scott, Keough's dropped back a couple seconds. Magali Roche no longer marking Noble. Take everything we said for the last 5 minutes, throw it out the window a little bit. But
I think maybe what we didn't see is Rochette putting in an attack on the backside of that course. I think she put in a dig now and has dropped Keough off a little bit because, again, Rochette's been sitting for 2 laps plus, right?
Yep, and so take everything that Mark Savory said and turn it on his head. And I think now Noble is marking Rochette. And again, what we were talking about before, we're looking at mirror images as far as racing style goes, and that's playing out with the back and forth. And being the third wheel, it could have played 2 different ways. It could have been Katie Keough gets to sneak out ahead and take a lead, or it means that she's going to be left behind. Right now, she has a little work to do to get back into this race. I'm not counting her out by any stretch of the imagination, but the two up top are looking at about a 3 or 4 second lead as they're coming to the flyover and the finish of this lap.
Yeah, I think that's the sort of the winning break maybe as Keough is finding a little bit of herself in a spot of bother as we've got the 2 riders. I'll step out of 10 here. You can tell a lot about racers if you look down at their shoulders, look to see how they are feeling. And as we will see 2 laps to go, Bill, 2 to go on the lap counter. Let's get a look at them as they roll through the start line area. I'm going to say they both equally look very calm. Getting a long look into the face of both of those riders. Didn't look like either one of them were distressed in any way. And I will say, knowing Magali, having caught a lot of bike races with her, knowing Ellen, having caught a lot of bike races with her, you can tell if they're hurting or not. And neither one of them looked, well, they didn't look like they were hurting any more than leading the Pan American Championship bike race. How's that?
They had a moment.
That's
as they came before they crossed the finish line. Magali turned back, and it wasn't a glance. It was a full-on staring into Noble's eyes. They just kind of locked eyes for a second, and we're like, all right, it's on. 2 laps to go.
Figure that out. Do the math on it. Try and understand, how is your competitor feeling? How do they look? How do their shoulders look? A lot of times those are what we talk about. Are they rocking their shoulders? Do they look tense? Those are all body language things that are very, very important to bike racers. And at this level, when it comes down to seconds and milliseconds, you have to know every little bit of your competitor's weakness, if you will. And that's exactly what they're looking at. I think you've got a top 5, top 10.
Yeah, we're looking at Magali Roche in first place, Ellen Noble in second, Katie Keough hanging on to third place, Courtney Mcfadden still in that 4th slot, but coming up fast is Jen Jackson in 5th place. We talked about her before. Sam Runnels having a great race in 6th place. Sandra Walter, another Live Cycling Canada rider in 7th place. She's moved up a lot. Farringer dropping back a little bit. She's currently in 8th place. Katherine Pendrell moving up 1 spot from that 10 slot to 9th. And then Erica Zavetta in 10th place.
I'm going to look at Noble there, and those of you watching at home, I'm sure you saw this as well. Noble was just doing something with her shoe, checking something with her shoe. I've seen her wiggle her right foot a few times. I don't know if she's gotten sand in there. But my point in that is they're coming up to pit lane right now. This is pit number 1. We'll see if she goes in. If she's having any kind of issues, this is the perfect time to have it because she can take a quick bike change.
All bike racers at the top level have a spare set of shoes in the pit. I don't think that she can take that gamble to change shoes. That would take way too long. You know, famously we saw Matthew Vanderpool changing his shoes in the pit on several occasions. Somewhere he'd go back in and win the race.
That's right.
I just don't think that is something that you are going to use in a catastrophic event.
That's right.
Not just, you know, having a latch or a boa that may not be fastening correctly. If it turned out it was something with her pedals, then I'm sure she would have gone in there and taken a bike. But that didn't happen. She didn't go into the pit row and just stayed right there on Rochette's wheel. Looking at the rest of our top 10. Pretty easy day for our mechanics so far, as we talked about throughout the day. Not as much in this race, but we should reiterate that yesterday was a pretty muddy race. A lot of gunk on the bikes, a lot of broken derailleurs with everything getting clogged up. Completely different conditions. They did not change the course at all yet. It is a completely different track the way it is riding. It is fast, it's flowy, it's tacky. We went from mud tires to almost like a chicane style where you have a file tread with some small knobs on the edges. So really complete everything that they did for the recon yesterday is changed today because it's running so much faster, as we see Magali Roche and Ellen Noble still leading the way, still right there. We'll call it a second maybe between them, but that's really just a safety zone. They're pretty much wheel to wheel in the top two, and Katie Keough not even coming up in the picture anymore. So I think when they come back around, next time around, they're going to get the bell, and we're going to have a two-person race.
Yeah, and just looking at Noble, won here yesterday, won both days of Cincy, won both days of Gloucester, won both days of Charm City. Second at the World Cup to Katie Keough. You got to go all the way back to Rochester, where she was second 2 days in a row, and I think you were there. Who was the last person to beat her in Rochester?
That, Scott, would be Magali Roche.
That's right. Thanks, Mark Savory, for pointing that out. You're 100% correct. Outside of the World Cup, the last time Ellen Noble did not win, it was Magali Roche was at the helm of that boat. Going to be an interesting one as this one winds its way down. We got about a lap and a half to go.
That, and for all of her accomplishments, and especially all of the wins this year, when you talk to Ellen Noble long enough, and her racing, especially in the last couple of years, what she is going to talk about is second places. Yeah. Second place in Worlds. Second place to Mariana Voss in the World Cup. She second place to Katie Compton at Nationals last year. She wants to not be known as the rider who gets second place in the big races. You talked about marking races in gold. Ellen Noble has won a lot of national championships. She wants a jersey this year.
Boy, you can tell where Magali Roche is on this course, because as they make their way around, we hear the loud screams coming around, because Magali Roche right now on the front of this bike race, the only other Canadian to ever hold a Pan Am championship. She won the inaugural year on 2014. Magali Roche was your first and only Canadian Pan American Championship. She would love to bring that back home. Many of you know the story. In case you don't, coming through the Cliff Bar program, racing for Cliff Pro Team this year, throwing everything out the window and saying, here's what I want to do. I want to focus on cyclocross. I want to make my own schedule. I want to race for myself. I'm going to throw in with 10-Speed Hero. I'm going to throw in with, I believe, Specialized bikes, and I'm going to make my own program. I'm going to bring Ruby West along with me. Let's see what we can get done here. And right now, so far, this is showing dividends right now, because Magali Roche, last time we saw her, was going off the front of this bike race, just in front of Ellen Noble. It'll be about another 20 seconds before we can see him again.
Yeah, we saw a little difference between mountain biking and cyclocross there, as Becca Faringer off the bike was able to repass Katherine Pendrell running up the stairs. So just sort of a fun moment there. And just to clarify what you were saying about Magali Roche winning the Pan Am Championship, just so people don't check us, Scott knows all of this data. That was in the U23 race. Katie Compton, of course, was the winner up until this year, the only winner in the women's elite category.
That's right. Back in 2014, it was like ages ago.
Yeah.
It's when she was just a young U23 rider. But here we go, all back together again. So that little gap that Rochette was able to get, Noble says, I don't think so. I'm going to go ahead and shut that door down. Don't think you're getting away from me quite yet, as we got about a lap and a third to go now here at the 2018 Pan American Championships. Canada's Magali Roche on the front, Noble in chase.
Rochette going in there a little nose heavy off of that curve. Got a little stoppy action going as they came down, and they're about to get to this sand section. These ruts, we've talked about it all day long. And Noble off her bike. Noble crashing or some kind of a problem coming through there. Let's see if she still has gear. She does, but she's playing with her bike. That is a huge moment. She obviously knocked her handlebars into the ground, knocked the shifter. Her mechanic is going to be ready right there with a new bike. So she is going to change bikes, and she is going real slowly up there. She may have to get off.
No,
she is not changing bikes. Not changing bikes. Amazing that Noble did not go in there for a new bike. I guess she's fine with the one that she has, but that is a surprising decision. Looking at her trying to knock that shifter back into place and feeling like that was still an okay bike. But boy, oh boy, does Ellen Noble have her work right down in the drops. Did you see that? Rochette knows she is. Every other lap through there, she is on the hood. She is racing it like a cyclocross racer. When she came through that time for the bell, she is racing it like a road racer. She's down low in an aero tuck and just in her biggest gear, giving it everything she has.
As a wave of sound comes by R10 on the backside of that finish line, where Canada has come out to watch Magali Rochette, and watch her they are, because Rochette is in full attack mode right now.
9 seconds. 9-second gap between Ellen Noble and Magali Rochette as Katie Keough makes her way through in third place. Oh boy, this is going to be the race now. Noble is going to have to go all in. If she has anything left in that match book, they all are going to have to come out now.
Oh, it's now or never. She can't wait until the backside of this course. You're exactly right. She has got to go. It's now or never for Noble. She's got to have that short-term memory loss. We talk with bike racers a lot. It's like, get rid of that. Forget that crash happened. Do what you know how to do and pedal your bike fast. Turn the corners like you know how to. And Noble's good at that. She will get back on this one. But the question is, has the damage been done? You said it. Rochette looked over her shoulder and said, okay, I'm not trying to take advantage of something, but there isn't any reason that I need to be waiting. This isn't the yellow jersey in the Tour de France. We're not waiting. It's time to get going, and she's down in the drops and pushing up that backside of the hill. Just getting a look at her just off camera right now. I'm going to say the gap's gone beyond 9 seconds, Bill. I'm going to say 12-second gap at this point. Coming back into camera view, that in the white kit right there with the orange and yellow bike as Bill does the count. The gap is large right now.
I'd say I got it at about 15 or 16 seconds. Killer instinct by Rochette. And you're exactly right. This isn't the Tour de France. This is cyclocross racing, and this is all part of it. If you go down, and I guarantee you she did not see it, but she heard it.
That's right.
Magali Rochette heard it behind her, and as soon as it is a distinct sound of a bike crashing behind you. As soon as you hear that, she is full gas and just kicking it as hard as she can to get out ahead. Let's see if Ellen is still happy with her bike. We can see her mechanic, Tom Price, already has the bike ready to go. You can see him pulling it out into the middle of the pit.
Right by the pit.
And it is gone, and she is fine with that machine. I understand the calculus. She knows her bike. She knows her machine. I'm sure once she got that shifter back in place, she knew that the bike was fine, and it was going to be faster for her not to dismount, not to take the new bike. You never know what's going to happen in those exchanges. Right. They practice them all the time, but that still doesn't mean something could go wrong. So stay on the same bike if it's good, and just do what you can to try to mitigate the losses. But Magali Rochette has the power of this crowd behind her, that killer instinct of knowing that she had the opportunity and she wanted to seize it, and it's looking pretty good for her at this point.
Yeah, that was it's sort of an innocuous corner down there. There's really nothing to it. It's a little greasy. It's a left side or a left turn, so that means she fell non-drive side, so that she won't have any derailleur problems. And like you said, if you jump up and your chain's still on and you got no drive issues, the only thing you need to do is adjust your front shifter a little bit, which she adjusted her right shifter with her left hand, small adjustment. And I think she's fine. Magali Roche goes through. We can see her just at the top of the screen as she goes through that mid-step, mid-shelf portion. And looking back, there is Noble. So Noble is still right there. Magali Roche cannot afford a single mishap, and she knows that. She also cannot slow up on the pedals at all. She has got young Ellen Noble right behind her, and when you look at Ellen Noble, again, she's a 4-time junior national champion. She's a former Pan American champion in the U23 or the junior, and a 2-time national mountain bike champion, a silver medalist at nationals. You don't get that kind of race resume by quitting when you crash your bike, and Ellen Noble, by any stretch of the imagination, will not quit this bike race. She is going to dig and keep digging, because whatever just happened to her could absolutely happen to Roche on any one of these corners. She knows that.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Also a bronze medal in the U.S. National Mountain Bike Cross-Country Championship as well this year. So a full resume, but as I mentioned before, she has those second places on her mind, and she wanted to try to erase that. But, hey, Magali Roche, not like she didn't want this also. She wants this jersey. This is going to be huge for her. Didn't win
slip there. Sorry, a little slip coming into those stairs.
It's not your current Canadian national champion. She lost that last year, came in second place. Would love to win that back, but is going to be super happy to be able to take home this Pan Am championship.
So an 8-second gap coming right now. So again, they
made up a lot of time.
That's a lot of time.
Noble is right back in it.
Yeah, a lot of time for sure. Now they hit the high point. We've highlighted that a few times. This is the high point of the course. So now it's all about the brakes and the slalom powers as they'll come on back down. They've got 2 more punchy little climbs, but outside of that, no real climbs to go. So it's mostly downhill, let the brakes go.
Yeah, and not a lot of course left for Noble to make it up. And also what we were able to note earlier in this race, the first time that we saw Magali Roche go ahead, it was because she rode this top part of the course faster. So it's not like this is something that Noble will say, okay, once we get to the top, this is where I'm better than her, because this is where she actually lost her lead, and I believe lap 2 or 3.
Yeah, and thinking about Noble and thinking about what's going through her head right now, she's probably kicking herself saying, I cannot believe one little slip is what's going to come down to. But again, cyclocross racing, how many times have we seen it come down to? At this level, it's the microseconds, it's the small slips and things like that. And they say it's not the riders right off the front sometimes as is who makes the least amount of mistakes. And on a day like today, I would have never guessed that someone was going to slide out in a corner.
But here's if we look at the other side of that, Magali Roche raced the race she wanted to race. And if she's not putting on the pressure on Noble at that point, look what happened right before that. Rochette had like a 2 or 3 second lead. Right. She had a gap. Noble is at the limit trying to shut that down, and she's still pushing. She's still not back onto the wheel where she wants to be, pushes it a little too hard and makes that mistake. So all of the credit to Rochette for putting Noble in that position where maybe she had to go a little harder than she wanted to through those technical sections at the bottom of the course. That's what. So I think we're sort of concentrating on Noble a little bit here, but I think what we really need to be concentrating on is Rochette. She raced. We were talking about how she wanted to sit in for the first one. She was marking her rider, picking her spots, going where she wanted to go. This is the perfect race. This is not coming down to any mistake that Noble made. She put her in a position where she had to go above where she wanted to go and didn't get that one turn where we're watching Rochette go through right now, and this is the result. Magali Rochette's going to be making the final turns and taking this Pan Am championship.
Yeah, she's coming around that corner where Noble went down. Again, Noble, I wouldn't say she sit up. She looks like she's still charging a little bit because, again, same thing had happened. And
foot down for Rochette.
So getting a little sideways, that's that dangerous spot. And did she just put her hand up like she's coming in to get a bike? I don't think so. It looked like she had a little bit of a hands off the bar.
That may have been more of a rodeo move.
She's getting a little sideways in there. This one's not done yet.
Look how slow they're getting around that turn now. That must be so dicey compared to what we saw earlier in the day. But here she goes. Final time down pit row. We'll lose her for only a second, pick her up under the flyover, and then we'll be able to take her home. Here you go. Magali Rochette coming home for the end.
Oh, it's going to get loud and proud because she's the only Pan American champion from Canada, winning that in 2014. All the focus on it this year and paying big dividends. Oh, Canada, Magali Rochette's going to be our new Elite Women's Pan American Champion. Bill, how about them apples?
That is a great, as I said, I think she did everything she wanted to do. She raced the perfect race. We talked about the mirror image between her and Noble. That's exactly how it played out. You had two almost identical racers coming through there. You know, we talked about it a couple minutes ago. The only person to beat Ellen Noble in the last 8 UCI races, Magali Roche. She's able to do it again. She is a worthy champion, a worthy next racer to Katie Compton, the only other person ever to have this title. Pretty amazing.
That's right. It looks like
Katie Keough coming in on third.
Amazing racing. And again, I said it about the men's race. I'll take more of that kind of racing. That
For
was
sure.
absolutely
We
amazing.
could not ask. Scott, we sit there. We're paid to commentate. We're paid to talk up these races and make them exciting. Full slate of amazing races today.
Right.
I was pretty pleased. It was as cold as we are sitting here. It was a fun day to watch all of these races. All of them had tactical battles. I loved what the Silver Goose and the organizers and John Hauser and all of his volunteers did at this venue, and I look forward to coming back next year and doing it again.
Yeah, how about Courtney Mcfadden pulling down 4th place on that? I think she was 5th last year. So moving up one step as more riders coming through, and I hear them getting loud. I'm going to guess this
for
is
Pendrell?
Jen, maybe?
Oh, Jen, yeah.
I don't know. We'll have to look and see as they come through. I hear them getting loud.
Jen
and I
Jackson
see a red
in 5th place.
So I'm assuming it's a Canadian. Jen Jackson, you're right. Sammy Runnels,
Great race
I
for her.
believe.
Sam Runnels for 6th place.
Oh, and there's Pendrell.
Look at that. 7th place, Katherine Pendrell. She has to be happy with that.
Farringer coming through right after
Farringer
her.
coming for 8th place. Great showing by Katherine Pendrell.
You know,
that's quite a weekend for her.
She was 3rd place in a 2-hour cyclocross race yesterday.
Mountain bike race.
Yeah, I know, but it's like a 2-hour cyclocross
Oh, that's
race.
true. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, for
it's
sure.
a very fast course out
For
there,
sure,
that
yep.
mountain bike race. And then coming driving 8 hours, and that's not a bad weekend, I would think, for racing your bike on 2 wheels.
Yeah, another one of our top Canadian racers coming in 9th place was Sandra Walter.
Yeah, so great day, great weekend of racing. And in just a few moments, they'll invite all of our champions over to the podium area for the podium presentation of the
kiss
Silver
the goose.
That's right, got to kiss the goose. It's a big silver goose over there Bill and I were talking about before. But sun's starting to set here. What a great race. As you said, organizers, big shout out to them. What a great race they put. Don't forget, everybody, this is year 1 of 2 years racing right here for the Pan American Championships here at Silver Goose CX.
Yeah, great day out here. We are finishing up our top 10. I think that's going to be Erica Zavetta would be my guess. Yes, it is for the Garneau Easton team. They did it, Scott. They did it before it got pitch black.
That's right.
So we moved up
They
the
made
race.
it.
Perfect timing. This was a great day. For those of you all in the United States, but also North America, you and I will be down in Louisville in December, commentating for
about a month.
For U.S. Nationals. So I look forward to working with you again. And thanks for making the drive up and hanging out today. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Good racing. We always say it's fun commentating. It's more fun commentating when the racing is that much fun. And that
Absolutely.
was a fun day of racing here in Midland, Ontario.
Yeah, thanks again to Cannondale and Simcoe County Tourism, Toronto Digital Imaging, VeloColor, Velo Reality, Bruce Gray, Simcoe, and all of our other sponsors for making it possible for us not only to race but also for this live cast. We are signing off for Bill Scheiken and Scott Herman. We'll see you next year for the next Pan Am Championships. Congratulations to all our champions.
Can you give us a bye-bye, cyclocross friends?
Goodbye, cyclocross friends.
There it is.